and welcome to the Advisors in Focus video series. Thank you for joining us. In this episode, partnered by Prospa, we'll be delving into some of the key insights and themes from the Budget 2020-21. If you didn't make it last night to watch the full budget, we'll be going into some of the key findings for small businesses and what it means for small business brokers as well. To help me do that, we brought in Beau Bertoli, the Chief Revenue Officer of Prospa. Thanks, Beau, for joining me today.
Good morning, it's great to be here, Annie.
We should also say thank you very much for making it in early. You know, it's right after the budget was announced last night. It went on for a while if you were watching the full coverage. So I appreciate you making it into the office this morning to record with us to help brokers understand what the budget really means for them and for their small business clients.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's a great budget.
Well, a great budget and a great big budget. So originally scheduled for May of this year, where it was all going to be talking about being in surplus. What a difference a few months change. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic hit our shores and changed very much what the government was focusing on. Now actually in a record deficit of $213 billion this year alone. But it seems that you need to spend money in order to get the economy moving again, to get small businesses open and hiring, and to get people spending their money into the economy too. But let's focus on really what it means for small businesses. Now, there were a range of initiatives announced for SMEs, particularly some that we already knew in the run-up to the budget and some that were handed down last night for the first time, one of which was the announcement of a new hiring credit for young people for small businesses. I wonder, when you actually look at the main sort of announcements that were made for SMEs, what were your call-outs, and what do you think it will sort of mean for the finance space?
I think in regards to what it means for the finance space, it starts with what it means for the economy. And this is definitely a budget that is aimed at creating jobs, that is designed to stimulate business owners to really think about their investment choices and how they can continue or perhaps even restart the investment in their business. And I think it's an appreciation that it takes jobs, it takes employment growth to really grow an economy. And if we want to get things like consumption growth happening again, the best chance we've got as a country of doing that is to get more people back into jobs and to create more roles. So this very much feels like a budget designed to support job creation. We've seen record numbers of unemployment figures in recent times. We've seen small business owners in particular bear the brunt of the impact of many of the lockdowns and government intervention that's happened over the course of this year. So it's very appropriate that the engine of the economy, the small business community, who represent something like 40% of GDP and employ almost 2/3 of all Australians, are really given a great foundation here in this budget to start looking at how they can create jobs. It means really positive things, I think, for the finance industry. A lot of the tax concessions or things that require investment will actually require capital in order to bring those to life. So we think this will be very positive for the small business economy. Anything that's good for the small business economy is good for the country, and that should be good for the finance sector in general. Yeah,
and it's really a sort of budget, I think, where there's a lot of money being spent and given to people. I mean, I think small businesses now can get up to 10 tax concessions. There's personal tax cuts, but probably, as you're mentioning there, around the actual sort of buying assets, there is now this new extended instant asset write-off where we previously had the write-off. It's now been extended to a lot more companies, so you can actually buy new equipment and write that off in the tax year, but also even historically you can do it for existing equipment too. I wonder when you look at that sort of measure where it's saying, well, you know, it's allowing businesses to actually buy a new asset and help them sort of run their business. Do you think that actually is a useful initiative for SMEs? Do you see a lot of instant asset write-offs generally, or people coming to Prospa to buy assets?
Absolutely. We, at Prospa, something like 15% of all of our lending, which is now over $1.6 billion, has been used for the purchase of equipment. And that's a very important part of running a business. Very few, if any, businesses operate without equipment in their businesses and without those assets to really move the business forward. And I think what we've seen in the course of 2020, a lot of business owners have put off investment decisions just due to the uncertainty of what the economic outlook has for them. This budget, we believe, will actually create a lot more certainty in the outlook and shows that the government is here to support small businesses and that recovery that is so desperately needed to get underway. So business owners who have been putting off for 6 months or even 12 months those choices now have got a really great tax incentive and a reason to go out there and invest in their businesses. And it has a flow-on effect throughout the economy. So one business owner buying an asset from another business, it keeps people in jobs in both businesses. It has a flow-on effect through the supply chain, all the way through the economy. So it's got a multiplier effect, and I think that's what the government's recognising here. It's not a free handout to the small business community. They actually have to make an investment choice.
Yeah.
Very similar to the job creation measures in this budget, which require a small business owner, or a business owner for that matter, to go out there and employ someone before they can get a wage subsidy or a rebate. So it does require action on behalf of the small business owner, and that's a really encouraging sign from the government, and I think small business owners will embrace this en masse.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is one of the things as well where brokers can come in and really help their small businesses. If they don't yet know that they can access this new depreciation benefit, then they can actually go and buy something and hire a new person and have that cash flow in their pocket to actually.
What a great conversation to have with any small business owner. What are the investment decisions you've been putting off for most of 2020?
Yeah.
Such a simple question, and the answer might actually be quite astounding in terms of, they haven't upgraded vehicles, or they haven't upgraded their computer gear, or they haven't upgraded, maybe it's some production stuff if they're a bakery, and they haven't replaced some of the machines that have been, on their last legs. So this is a really wonderful way to engage with a small business owner and to get them to also think about their investment decisions. It's a program that's going to run over a couple of years, so that's also encouraging that it's not a spend it all before Christmas sort of thing and get the benefit. It's got a multi-year runway. And again, that's going to be good to underpin economic growth over an extended period of time, rather than just a sugar hit for 3 months or 6 months and then it's gone.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Christmas there as well, and obviously now we're in the run up to Christmas. Very different Christmas than usual. Obviously, everyone's sort of thinking about, will I be able to travel to see my family? Will I be able to cross borders? What's going to happen? But obviously, still very much going to be focused on retail and e-commerce. So really looking at, do I have the adequate logistics to be able to deliver all the presents that people are buying for their family? Or will I have enough stock to enable sort of online shopping? I wonder, when it comes up to Christmas traditionally, what sort of things would small businesses be focusing on? And do you think that it will be different this year because of COVID?
So we're here in October, which for many small business owners is the decision point around how much stock or inventory you bring into your business for the Christmas period. And again, I think it will vary region by region. So some regions like Victoria, which are still under pretty strict lockdowns, many business owners are still feeling quite uncertain about what the future roadway looks like in terms of coming out and being able to reopen many of their businesses. Other regions have reopened, like New South Wales, Queensland, many of the other states and territories are very open and busy, and retail is going well. I think the big move in the budget is in relation to the personal tax cuts coming forward. Historically, whenever we've seen personal tax cuts, it does lead to an increase in consumption, and a lot of that consumption happens inside retail. So I think everyone's looking forward to putting 2020 behind them, having a tax cut come through, a little bit more money in the back pocket of millions of Australian workers can only be a positive when it comes to the lead up to Christmas. And again, I think many small business owners will be looking at this, thinking about their demand for their products over the next couple of months, and thinking about stocking up and increasing their inventory levels. And again, there's a timing issue there when it comes to paying for the inventory today versus selling it maybe over the next 2, 3 or 4 months. So from a cash flow perspective, this is a game where products like what Prospa builds and many others can support those small business owners to take advantage of this money that will flow through the economy over the next few months, get the stock in now at whatever deal you can lock in before the Christmas rush happens, and make a really good return over the next 3 months.
Yeah, and I guess as well, looking at Christmas too, it's not just about inventory, but it's also about having the right staff, having adequate resources to actually deliver what you need to. So again, having the budget with these new hiring credits, with the new subsidies particularly focused on getting younger people back into employment if they've been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, is again something that small businesses can take advantage of and really hopefully help ramp them up for Christmas too.
That's right, yeah. Well, new hiring from today, certain size businesses and certain age brackets absolutely will be eligible for a subsidy. In addition to that, we've also seen support come through, which was already announced, but for apprentices, a subsidy of up to 50% of their wages for the first year for new apprenticeships that are created. And that's really important for sectors of the economy. We've spoken a bit about retail, but the trades and construction is a very, very important part of the economy, and there are many small businesses throughout that sector. So again, this is a great way that as we start to see more money flow through the economy, more activity, more infrastructure investment as well, there'll be more demand on the construction and services industry. So again, these types of support mechanisms are great for building that future pipeline of talent and employees coming through those industries. But again, you also have to cover the other half of the wage, or you have to cover the startup costs of a new employee in your business. So capital partners are also important to support those types of activities that business owners will want to undertake due to this budget.
Yeah, and you mentioned there about construction as well, and I think obviously again the big sort of hitters are all in the budget. Infrastructure and engineering, and we've seen again I think it's $14 billion for new transport and infrastructure. But what I was going to say is that not only is it in transport and infrastructure, but also in housing construction too. We've seen the government announce an additional 10,000 places for the first home loan deposit scheme, which was very, very popular. We know in August they were sort of already saying that places for 2020, 2021 were already reserved. So it'll be really welcome for many finance and mortgage brokers who are working with their mortgage customers to, if they're looking for getting on the property ladder for the first time, to be able to access a first home loan deposit scheme with a deposit of little as 5%, which in turn supports the housing construction industry and keeps tradies in jobs as well. So lots of announcements around that too. Nothing yet on home builder. So I think there was some sort of grievances raised around that not being extended, but we'll see if that actually does take effect, but nothing in the budget for it so far. I wonder, when it comes to things that you would have liked to have seen that weren't necessarily in the budget, was there anything there that sort of surprised you in its absence?
So we thought that there was really good support for workers, so people in employment, obviously with the tax cuts coming forward, is a real benefit. For small businesses, we've spoken at depth about the benefits within the budget to small business owners, in particular to encourage investment and employment, which we think are really great areas. There was a component of the budget which we also thought was very well received, and that was the wind back of the R&D tax incentive changes that were going to be pushed through. That's come, I think, at a cost of about $2 billion to the budget, and whilst we welcome that and we think it's a really good step, it just takes it back to the settings that it was a little while ago. In Australia, we think there's a real opportunity for our country to be market leaders, in fact, globally, in relation to fintech. We've got such an opportunity here, such depth of talent, and anything that can support things like investment in software, investment in the way that technology is helping customers, small businesses, whether that be a consumer, access the capital products and the credit products they want, is a good thing, and it's very important that we keep that environment supporting these types of innovations. Out of many crises, some of the greatest companies the world has ever seen have been built. We've just come through the greatest crisis, certainly in recent memory. So further investing in what is the future of our world, technology and software, and providing incentives for companies to do that would be one area that we'd hope to see further progress in. Outside of that, there were some areas like the environment that there was some minimal things, and I think the bushfires and floods are almost distant memories. But again, we have small businesses at Prospa. We had many customers that were affected by the bushfires and the floods that came through sort of over the last 12 months. And again, caring about environment and thinking about what we're doing to actually enhance environmental stability for our country is important. So there were definitely some measures around recycling and so forth, but that was one area that we probably could have gone a little bit further. But all in all, we think it's a great rounded budget. It certainly supports the key drivers of economic activity. That's going to be critical for the growth of our country. You mentioned a record deficit, record debt as well, peaking at over $1 trillion, not too far down the track. Yep. Economic growth is the only way for us to try to find a way out of this in the future.
Well, there's a lot to digest in the budget 2020-2021, and if you haven't read the advisor's coverage of it, then I would urge you to go to the website and check it out. It's got some of the key findings that impact the mortgage and finance space, and also a link to the full budget document as well if you want to take some light reading and have a look at all of that too. Thank you so much, Beau, for joining us today and sharing a little bit around what what it does to help small businesses and small business brokers too. And we hope that everyone working to help small businesses at the moment will be able to contact their clients and let them know of the changes to help them in the ramp up to Christmas.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Thank you so much. Do take a look back at previous episodes of In Focus to find out what else has been happening in the mortgage and finance space. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we'll catch you soon for another episode of In Focus.